So I'm testing out a new lighting setup. I got that RGB looking vibe now. We got a little moon lamp over here. Got some kind of like bulb lights here. But tell me in the comments, does this kind of setup look sleek? I think it looks pretty nice, huh? But anyways, I'm back with another one dynamic driver IEM. This one looking quite familiar, but with a bit of a twist actually. It's the PULA Audio Unicrom. It's not Unicron, that's what I thought as well, but in Japan, this IEM is actually named Moku, which means something like wood grain. Now that makes more sense given that there's a nice looking stabilized wood faceplate printed on these IEMs. Before we get into it, a like and a sub would really help the channel out. I'm aiming for 5,000 subs and your support is much appreciated. We've got a well-sized box with an interesting, slightly glittery green outer shell with the Unicrom's name on the front and sides. Slide that out, you get a more conventional inner box with two vertical flaps opening to reveal the Unicroms on top, with its square carrying case in the bottom. Set case is actually, it's really nice. A square box type with a green soft pleather pattern, and there's a felt lining inside as well, keeping the Unicrom all cushy in there. And oh yeah, there's a desiccant pack. Don't eat these, okay? At the bottom layer, there's a surprisingly Tangzu-like collection of ear tips, including the clone AET-07s and 08s, both very good choices for the Unicrom. I would have used the same ear tips myself on the Unicrom if PULA didn't include it. And of course, what's an IEM without its cable? The Unicrom is sporting a very dark brown color for that wood vibe, but what's nice is that it sports a modular plug, giving you 3.5 and 4.4mm options. Now, I would have liked something in silver, but the stock cable color combo is pretty subtle if you kind of don't want to draw any attention to you. And now to the Unicrom. You'll see a very familiar silhouette and design to the lower end Kiwi ears Cadenza. And you'll see more similarities when we get to the sound. Having said that, the Unicrom shell is a bit bigger, but no less comfy, and the wood faceplates, I got mine in green, are more subtle and premium than the Cadenza's faceplates, which they look nice on the photo, kinda a bit flat in real life. Now I wear the Unicroms with the included AET-07 clone ear tips, but a nice upgrade path in comfort could be the Tangzu Tangsankai ear tips as well, but even with these, you'll have a good time with comfort on the Unicroms. So for the sound, I'm gonna position the PULA Unicrom as basically a natural upgrade to all you Cadenza owners out there, because it pretty much slots into that role perfectly. If we go by the graphs here, I think it really does look like a slight retune of the Cadenza, and a lot of that transfers into real life listening as well. But there are some tonality and technical differences that we should discuss. So with the low end, the Unicrom has a more relaxed approach. It's got that lengthened decay and a more, I'd say, rounded off bass profile that is suited for slower, kind of more impactful mixes rather than like fast hitting stuff like D&B, you know? The Unicrom's bass, it plays out especially well with like smooth, liquid bass lines. So for example, Alarm by Lucas and Cruella. I would have liked to see more bass definition at its price tier, I'd say, but aside from that, the low end is complementary to the more subtle sound signature. The mid-range of the Unicrom is what defines its identity. It is a smooth and relaxed ordeal all the way through. We've got nicely neutral lower mids, but the more, I'd say, gradual and less boosted upper mid-range, it gives low mids the sense of being warm as well. The peanut gain region here is noteworthy. It reminds me of Moondrop stuff like the old Starfield and Kato. They are emphasized, but they're not exactly like super exaggerated like the pure Harmon-tune stuff, right? And you've got this rounded off, effortless vocal performance rather than sort of like an intoxicating feeling like the Audio-Technica stuff. Now the best thing about the PULA Unicrom's treble is that it gets out of the way. Instead of trying for a boost which can kind of introduce sibilance and graininess, all that, well, the PULA here, they basically just left the upper registers alone with a reserved and non-fatiguing tone to kind of round out a relaxing, balanced sound signature. Now there's just a bit of air to kind of fully portray the lighter toned instruments like piano notes. Check out Hellberg's The Girl to see that treble in action. Overall though, a very solid kind of high end that doesn't try to show itself too much and just gives way for the other frequencies to shine through. Now the soundstage on the Unicrom, I think it's above average here. It's slightly outside the range of your ears with some kind of basic, a bit narrow, but it's there. You have height elements that are thrown in as well, and you have this sufficient imaging performance. But the detail retrieval, I think that leaves me a bit wanting though. So the Unicrom here, it has a good quality beryllium diaphragm DD, I think, that they or is it beryllium coated? I'm not sure. But they deliberately kind of tuned this driver down so that it's more musical than it is technical. And it kind of shows in the music, right? You get flashes of technical brilliance, but there's just not much in the way of micro detail rendition. Although the macro detailing here, it's pretty much on point. What's nice is that the Unicrom, it very rarely, like, quote-unquote chokes in busier songs. Something that the lower end Cadenza that it intends to replace often has trouble with. So I alluded to the little Kiwi ears Cadenza a lot because I think the Unicrom shares a lot of the same DNA, but I'd say with extra refinements added. From the unboxing, we see a more extensive accessory set from the Unicrom with its the case, you have the ear tips, and a modular cable. Build-wise, I think the Unicrom shell it's a bit more subtle compared to the Cadenza's looking nice on the picture but then falling flat in real life design as well. Sound-wise, the Unicrom, it takes the Cadenza's blueprint and just does it better, thanks to its higher budget, I guess. Bass ranges remain fairly similar, whilst mid-range here I see the biggest deviance. Whilst the Cadenza, it has a brighter, sometimes it's a bit crass with vocals, but they have more bite and grunge. The Unicroms, in return, it's a lot more calm with portraying the singers, giving them a reserved positioning that it's not so in your face, yet not falling out of the focus either. Technical ability is definitely a win for the Unicrom as well. Being able to maintain its fidelity even on the more like chaotic mixes and stuff like that, where the Cadenza on those songs, they will start to falter. Whereas the PULA IM, well, it has better imaging characteristics as well, and that definitely helps with allowing instruments to have space to play around in the mix. Now, whether or not these upgrades are worth paying something like more than twice the Cadenza's price, that's something you'll have to consider yourself. Now, it's kind of funny that PULA is actually a brand that's offering an upgrade solution to its competitor's entry-level product. But given that there's nothing on the Kiwi ears lineup that I can say is like a straight-up Cadenza upgrade, really the Unicrom, it fits into that role very neatly. If you loved the Cadenza, get ready to love it all over again on the Unicrom, and it's got a little bit more as well. So that's the upgrade scenario considered, but I have to say there is better value to be found elsewhere as well. So at $50, the Tangzu Yu Xuan Ji, it's also no slouch, offering a really cool looking metal shell and including those Tang Sankai ear tips as well. For the sound, the Yu Xuan Ji, it leans more onto the wild side compared to the Unicrom's quiet refinement. You have a touch more bass energy on the Tangzu despite the squigglies looking quite similar, and Tangzu's upper mid-range is full of energy. It's tuned for maximizing detail extraction with that sharp 8 kHz peak providing a nice fidelity boost as well. Now the Unicrom on the other hand, well, it leans more on the balanced spectrum, right? Keeping all frequency ranges on a pretty even keel. The Yu Xuan Ji, despite its lesser price, is actually no less technically adept than the PULA IEM. Sometimes even like edging out the Unicrom on like micro detail and imaging sometimes, but it's there. Though they are pretty equal in terms of overall separation. These IEMs fall on two opposite sides of the spectrum, right? If you want a more wild sound, open back design, and going for some detail, I think the Yu Xuan Ji is still a very viable option. But if a balanced, kinda slightly relaxed take is what you're after, then actually the Unicrom here puts up a very good show. Some IEMs, they try to create their own niche and they aim themselves into kind of a specialist role, whilst others, they look at an established position, an established product, and build off of it. The PULA Unicrom, I think it's the case of the latter, mirroring the playbook of the popular Kiwi ears Cadenza with tuning and accessory refinements, and as well as a slight technical uplift. Given that there's nothing on the Kiwi ears lineup that I can say is a straight up better Cadenza, I think the Unicrom slots into that role very neatly. Again, if you've loved the Cadenza, get ready to fall in love with it all over again on the Unicrom, and now it's a little bit better as well. Thank you to Hifigo for providing a PULA Unicrom sample for review. Despite that, they do not have any creative or editorial control over my content, and what I've said in this review are my honest thoughts.